Hello and welcome to TargetOne channel. In this session, we are going to understand about project management. Now you might be thinking, why should I learn about project management? The reason is, no matter what role or industry you are in, the way we are working is changing, and according to a consulting firm, by 2027, most of the work would be project based. Even in the most job description, you would notice that knowledge about project management is marked as one of the essential skills, and one of the reasons is that employers feel more confident in hiring candidates with project management skills, as it gives them the confidence that they are already aware what the working environment would be and what is expected from them. Talking about today's agenda, we would start by understanding what is project deliverable, what is project management all about, and why there is a need of managing project. What is operations and difference between project and operations. What is PMO, followed by job roles within PMO. Later we will look at what is software development lifecycle, understand what is Waterfall and Agile model in particular, followed by understanding difference between both of these models, and we will take a look at one of the popular Agile framework, that is Scrum. Later we'll look at what is project status reporting, project plan, risk, schedule, issue, dependency, and assumption, and understand about change management. Later we will look at what is Timesheet and conclude with the popular project management tools and certifications available in the market for Agile. Before we dive into the session, I would like to share this message. So it says, change your identity, change your habit, which means you believe what you tell yourself. So when you say that I am healthy, I am a leader, I am successful, you change your mindset, and when you change your mindset, you change your life. Now, talking about our very first topic of what is a project, right? So a project is a temporary organization that is created for the purpose of delivering one or more business products according to a agreed business case. If I must break that down, then a project is a temporary endeavor, that is, it's one of effort. It has a start date and an end date. It creates unique service, products, or result. So each project is unique in nature. Now talking about some examples of project. So referring to first image, a building is a project. Second, a website is a project. Third, creating an application is a project. My very first project in the company was a cloud-based software application. Let me know in the comment section what was your first project that you ever worked upon. Moving on to the next topic of what is a deliverable. To keep it simple, the output produced by a project is known as a project deliverable. For example, if you are working on a new software, the expected deliverables would be a working software, as you see in the first image, in form of an .exe file, then supporting documentation such as user guide, release notes, and design document, etc. Referring to the third image, a demo video which would be used for promotional purposes, and fourth image represents code repository with unit tested code, and this would vary from project to project. So at start of every new project, it's very important for you to understand what is the expected project deliverables from you as part of the project team. Now that you have an understanding of what is a project and what is a project deliverable, let's try to understand what is project management. Project management is the planning, delegating, monitoring, and control of all aspects of the project and the motivation of those involved to achieve the project objectives within the expected performance targets such as time, cost, quality, scope, benefits, and risks. Let us now ask ourselves a question: why there is a need of project management? So, in order to achieve control over anything, there must be a plan. And it is a project manager who plans the sequence of activities to build a software, for example, and works out how many people will be required and so on. It may be possible to build the software yourself, but being a manager implies that you will have to delegate some or all the work to others. The ability to delegate is important in any form of management, but particularly so in project management because of cross functionality and risks in project management. Now, with the delegated work underway, the aim is that it should go according to plan. But we cannot rely on this always being the case, that is, the project will follow the same plan. So it is a project manager's responsibility to monitor how well the work in progress matches the plan. Of course, if the work does not go according to the plan, the project manager has to do something about it, that is, exert control. Even if the work is going well, the project manager may spot on opportunity to speed it up or reduce cost, whether it is by taking corrective action or implementing measures to improve performance. Project management ensures to make the right information available at the right time for the right people to make the right decisions. Before we move on to the next section, I want to congratulate you for starting this course. And you may not know this, but only 10% reached to this point. You are already on the top 10% of the viewers. We hope that you continue with the same energy and motivation throughout the course and successfully complete it. We are going to now understand the next terminology, that is, what is operations. So, projects and operations are both part of the product lifecycle. After product is made, it is being brought out to the market. The process of creating product again and again using same technique that were used earlier for purpose of distributing to users and making profit in most cases are all part of operations. Operations are ongoing execution of activities which occur after product is made to produce same result or a repetitive service. Production, manufacturing, and accounting are examples of operations. Whereas projects are temporary, unique, and innovative in nature. I love this quote: do what you are scared of doing until it's no longer scary. And that is growth. Given that now you have an understanding of project management, let's try to understand about what is a PMO. So PMO stands for Project Management Office, and a PMO is a group or a department within an organization that defines and maintains standards for project management within the project or program work. For example, if there is a new joiner in the organization and if there is a certain templates that they have to follow to give presentation, so can you guess who will provide and share those templates? You are right, that's the PMO, for example. That's one of the scenario. Talking about job roles within PMO, as you can see, it starts from the role of PMO analyst, who reports to a PMO lead, and PMO lead reports to PMO manager, and for the PMO manager reports to head of PMO or PMO director. Now this hierarchy could vary from organization to organization. I love this quote by an anonymous writer which says, "You will never always be motivated, so you must learn to be disciplined." Moving on to the next topic of software development lifecycle. So what is software development lifecycle? So software development lifecycle, or SDLC, is a process used by software industry to design, develop and test high quality softwares. The SDLC aims to produce a high quality software that meets or exceeds customer expectations, reaches completions within time and cost estimates. There are various software development lifecycle models defined and designed which are followed during the software development process. Some of the most popular software development models are Waterfall model, Agile model, Iterative model, Spiral model, V model and Big Bang model. Out of these, we will be just discussing about Waterfall and Agile model, which are the popular one in the market. Now talking about what Waterfall model is. So as mentioned earlier, Waterfall model is one of the popular SDLC model which was followed earlier in the IT industry. If you are going to be interviewed for a software development role or a project management role, you can expect one question around the phases of Waterfall model. As you can see, the model starts with requirement analysis and specification phase, where the aim is to understand the exact requirements of the customer and to document them properly. The outcome of this phase would be a software requirement specification document, right? Next, as you can see, is the design phase, wherein the aim is to transform the requirements gathered in the SRS document into a suitable form which permits further coding in a programming language. It defines the overall software architecture together with high level and detailed design. The outcome of the design phase is a software design document, right? Next is the implementation and unit testing phase. During this phase, design is implemented. If the software design document is complete, the implementation or coding phase proceeds smoothly because all the information needed by the software developers is contained in the software design document. During unit testing, the code is thoroughly examined and modified. Small modules are tested in isolation. Next phase is the integration and system testing. Unit testing determines the efficiency of individual models. However, in this phase, the models are tested for their interaction with each other and with the system. And the last phase is the operation and maintenance. So maintenance is the task performed by every user once the software has been delivered to the customer, installed and operational. These phases always focus in this order and do not overflow. The developer must complete every phase before moving on to the next one. So the phases follow like a waterfall. Now moving on to the next model, which is called as the Agile model. So Agile basically follows an iterative and incremental approach, and the meaning of Agile is swift or versatile, which means
This model is open to requirement changes. Hence it's said that Agile is based on adaptive software development method, whereas traditional SDLC models such as Waterfall is based on a predictive approach. Using Agile, customers do not need to wait for a long time. We develop, test and release piece of software to the customer with few number of features, and we can accept or accommodate requirement change. I will now provide you an overview of the diagram shown. So we start with requirement analysis, wherein you will have a discussion with the customer on the requirements to be worked upon based on priority. Once the initial features to be delivered are agreed upon, you will move on to the next phase, that is design phase, and come up with a design to work upon. And once the design is agreed, we will move into development phase. The development phase will be carried out in iterations. A iteration is usually between 1 and 4 weeks, and the duration is fixed based on estimates of the requirements. For example, if we anticipate that it will take 4 weeks of development to conclude and the length of our iteration is 2 weeks, so we will require 2 development iterations. And at the end of each development iteration, there will be a demo given to the customer to get feedback. Once the development is completed, it's then handed over to the testing team. That is, we move into QA phase, where the software is tested end to end. The QA phase could also be planned in similar manner as that of the development phase, that is in iterations. Once the QA team provides sign off on the application, we then move into deployment phase, where we deploy the application in customer's production environment to make it live, and further provide post-production support if there is any issues identified. And then the same process is followed for the next set of software features to be worked upon.
Before we move on, I want to share this message, and I want you to know that you can overcome any obstacle, and you are too good to let a single bad experience screw up your day. And I believe in you. Now let's discuss about the difference between Waterfall and Agile model. In terms of testing, in Waterfall model, testing is done after coding, that is development phase is completed. Whereas in Agile model, testing is done in every iteration. When I say an iteration in context of an Agile project is a time box during which development takes place. For example, the requirements that are achievable in 2 weeks are picked, and this time box phase is called as an iteration. Communication style in Waterfall is formal, and in Agile it's informal. For example, if there is a need to clarify any point in the requirements, you can directly call and clarify it rather than waiting for a reply on email. Development direction is fixed in Waterfall, as the requirements are fixed and do not change until the completion of the project. Whereas in Agile, it's easily changeable, as at end of each iteration there will be a demo to customer, which is an opportunity to share feedback and change future requirements if necessary. Talking about organization structure, Waterfall model is basically implemented for large organization where it's a highly formal environment, whereas Agile model is basically implemented for small and medium organization where there is flexibility and the customer is participative. So you will have a representation from customer side on your daily calls, whereas in Agile model the client involvement is low. User requirements in Waterfall model are detailed and fixed, whereas in Agile model it's an interactive input.
So to summarize the difference between Waterfall and Agile model, in Waterfall more focus is given on processes and tools, whereas in Agile the focus is more on individuals and interactions. In Waterfall model, we have comprehensive documentation, whereas in Agile, the focus is more on delivering a working software. In Waterfall, focus is more given on contract negotiation, whereas in Agile, the focus is more on customer collaboration. In Waterfall, focus is more on following a plan, wherein Agile is more focused on responding to change. Before we move on to the next section, I would like to take a moment to recognize the fact that 70% of the viewers who start this course quit in between, except you, not this time. We hope that you continue with the same energy and motivation throughout the course and successfully complete it. Now talking about what is Scrum. So Scrum is one of the famous Agile framework within which people can address complex adaptive problems while productivity and creativity delivering products of the highest possible value. As you can see in the diagram, we have the Scrum team marked in green color, which consists of a Scrum Master, Product Owner, and the development team. The Scrum Master is a servant leader who is accountable for the Scrum team effectiveness. He would ensure that all Scrum events take place and kept within the time box and help remove any roadblockers the team is facing. The product owner on the other hand is accountable for effective product backlog management, so he owns the product goal and roadmap. The development team are committed to creating a usable increment each sprint, which includes creating a plan for the sprint backlog, insisting quality by adhering to definition of done, adapting their plan each day towards the sprint goal, and holding each other accountable as professionals. Stakeholders which are highlighted in orange color are individuals or groups that can either impact the success and execution or are impacted by the product. They are not part of the Scrum team, and if they wish to prioritize any work, they can reach out to the product owner. Moving on to Scrum artifacts, which is in red color on the diagram. So basically there are three artifacts. First is the product backlog, second is the sprint backlog, and then there is an increment. Product backlog is the single source of work to be undertaken by the Scrum team, which is in form of user stories, that is requirements. The amount of work that can be done in one sprint is picked up from the product backlog and moved into the sprint backlog during the planning session. Now talking about what an increment is. An increment, which is a concrete stepping stone towards the product goal, and the increment must be usable. Work cannot be considered as part of an increment unless it meets the definition of done. The definition of done is a formal description of the state of the increment when it meets the quality measures required by the product. The moment a product backlog item meets the definition of done, an increment is born. Now talking about Scrum events, which is in blue color in the diagram. All are time boxed events, which means once a sprint begins, it cannot be shortened or lengthened. As you can see in the diagram, there are 5 events, starting with the sprint, followed by sprint planning, then daily scrum, fourth is sprint review, and finally you have something called a sprint retrospective. Now talking about what is a sprint in a Scrum. Sprints are heartbeat of Scrum, where ideas are turned into value. They are fixed length events of 1 month or less to create consistency. A new sprint starts immediately after the conclusion of this previous sprint. All the work necessary to achieve the product goal, including sprint planning, daily scrums, sprint review, and sprint retrospective, happens within the sprint. Now talking about sprint planning. Sprint planning is a session where you discuss and agree on the requirements that the development team can pick up from the product backlog and deliver, say for example, in 2 weeks. We are considering a sprint is 2 weeks long, so based on the priority set by the product owner, the development team will move the achievable requirements, that is user stories, from the product backlog into the sprint backlog. After sprint planning session, from next day onwards, you will have something called as daily scrum, also known as daily stand-up, which is an opportunity for the development team to collaborate by answering 3 questions. What has been done since yesterday? What do we plan to work on today? And if there is any roadblocks. So basically the Scrum team is focused to answer only these 3 questions, and if there are any other points which require more discussion, so that is noted and a separate meeting is set up to discuss on that particular point. Now talking about sprint review session, which is held last day of each sprint, which is an opportunity for the development team to demonstrate the outcome of the sprint. Sprint reviews are basically the demos that I have talked about previously. So the demo that we provide to the customer, wherein the customer then reviews what has been delivered and then shares his feedback. After sprint review, you have something called as sprint retrospective session. This is similar to lessons learned session, wherein the team captures lessons learned during the current sprint and captures the actions that can help the future sprint. So consider Agile as an umbrella term under which many frameworks exist, and all this framework follows the values given by the Agile, and Scrum is one of such framework. Now moving on to our next topic about what is project status reporting and why there is a need of it. Effective communication is a key component of successful project management. A large portion of project manager's role involves clear communication with the team and the project stakeholders. The chances of project success are significantly increased if any communication issues are addressed early and a best practice standard for project communication is put in place. Project status reporting is the process of providing a regular, standardized evaluation of the project progress against the plan. Its purpose is to effectively and efficiently communicate project status at regular intervals to project stakeholders. Moving on to what is a project plan. A project plan is a formal approved document used to guide both project execution and project control. The primary use of project plan is to document planning, assumptions, and decisions, facilitate communication between stakeholders, and document approved scope, cost, schedule, and baseline. A project plan may be summary or detailed. A summary of how and when project objectives are to be achieved by showing the major products, milestones, activities, and resources required on project. Now talking about project schedule. Project schedule is a timeline of project activities, deliverables, milestones, resources, and dependencies. The schedule depicts what is to be completed by when and by whom. This is most commonly reflected in a list of tasks and a Gantt chart. Before we move on to the next topic, I would like to share this beautiful message which states that if anyone is magically going to appear and suddenly make your life better, just know that that particular person is always going to be you. Now talking about what is a project risk. A risk is an uncertain event or a set of events that, should they occur, will have a material effect on the achievement of the project's objectives such as time, quality, cost, scope, or benefit. Now talking about what is project issue. A project issue is an event that has occurred and either has a positive or negative effect on the project chances of achieving its objective. Moving on to our next topic of what is a project assumption. Assumptions are belief based on previous experience and the information available to you. Project assumptions are an expected aspect of the life cycle of the project, and they add an element of risk to the project because they may not be accurate or come to friction, but it is important to track these assumptions. Now talking about what is project dependency. Dependencies in project management deal with managing and scheduling project tasks while keeping their sequences and requirements in mind. If task B requires the completion of task A, then we will say that task B is dependent on task A. This may sound simple right now, but in complex projects with several interdependent tasks, things can get messy. So it's really important that we call out dependencies while planning the project. If you have reached so far, here are 6 reasons why you should go ahead and complete the remaining course. First is life is too short. It's not all or nothing. Who cares what others people think about us? You're strong enough to do the hardest thing. Doing what you love makes success more likely. When you're brave, the universe rewards you. Moving on to our next topic about what is change management and why it's required. Change management can be defined as a structured approach to transitioning individuals, teams, and organization from a current state to a desired future state. Many people fear that as technology develops, it will take over the workplace. This often causes resistance to change in firms looking to implement new technology. By helping people better understand change, you can create a workplace with more open-minded people and who are open to change. Change management can help ease this tension and create a smooth process. Now talking about what is timesheet and why it's required. A timesheet is a method of recording the amount of a worker's time spent on each job. Timesheet helps with monitoring the budget via resource allocation, manage time on schedule, and measure employee performance. Now talking about some of the popular project management tools. This is not a complete list, but are the ones which are more in demand in the market. Both Jira and Confluence are products developed by Atlassian. Jira is used for project management that will help to implement the various project management frameworks available, and Confluence is used for documentation management. So basically all your documents related to project is stored and documented on Confluence. Let us now try to understand what are popular service providers in the market that provide Agile certification. Please note that this is not a complete list. Talking about Scrum Alliance, it's for Scrum and coaching certification. Same goes with scrum.org. Next is PMI ACP, also known as Agile Certified Professional, which is for practitioners who want to gain knowledge on a wider scale for Agile aspects. So this is quite well known one because PMI is known for PMP certification. Later they have introduced this PMI ACP certification. Next we have is IC Agile, which is a coaching federation which deals with coaching certification. Next is SAFE. Generally it does not comes under Agile. It's a combination of lean thinking, however people consider it as an Agile certification, which is a scaled Agile framework enterprise. There is no hierarchy as such. If you ask which one I should go for first, it all depends, as in if you want to become a Scrum Master or product manager, product owner, you can either go for certification provided by Scrum Alliance or scrum.org. If you want to expand your knowledge in every aspects of Agile, you can go for PMI ACP. If you want to become a coach, you can go for IC Agile certification. If you want to gain experience in scaled Agile framework, you can go for SAFE certification. Congratulations, you have crossed the final milestone and completed the entire course. You should be proud of yourself because out of all the people who view this course, only 5% reach at this point. So you are among the top 5%. Congratulations once again.